Hey guys, I feel like it's been forever since I've been communicating with you because I just went on about a 3 week trip out to the West Coast, different spots. I tried to record a few things while I was out there, especially with Tyler Mayer, who I stayed with, he and his wife Nicole. And hopefully we've stayed up to date a little bit on getting some of your questions answered on our YouTube channel and through the Facebook posts. But sitting down here right now reminds me of exactly what I knew my biggest challenge was going to be in creating this kind of video content. Hopefully, not all of you have been watching the entire series, but in this very spot, in my first interview with Derek Hobbs, I mentioned to him and mentioned to you guys that I'm going to be challenged by just sheer consistency. Sitting here talking to a camera is going to bore me. That's why I haven't done it up to this point. And I'm eventually gonna just stop doing it. I know myself. And so just having that month where I was traveling and just kind of got out of the habit, it really was difficult. I've been back for more than a week and it's been on my list of things to do to create some video content, and I have a content calendar. I've done all of these things to prepare myself to do some new content, but I just simply haven't. And part of it is that habit. But what I want to talk to you about today is where motivation comes from. And interestingly, on this trip, I got to speak with a few different people about it in different contexts. And one of the things that came out was a person that I was with really loves these mantras, and here's what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to get this tattoo that inspires me to do this, and I'm going to read this book, and every time you say something to him, he comes back with a motivational quote. And they're all very external things. And he talked about in terms of health goals and business building goals. You know, I have to have that measure. I have to have this date. I have to have the deadline. I have to do this. And again, it was all external. So I questioned him and I said, okay, show me your success pattern. Show me where all of these things that you've done externally have created the results you want. And crickets. I mean, deer in the headlights stared. Zero. There was nothing that he could offer. And I said, that's because true motivation has to come from within. There has to be some intrinsic value. And it reminds me of some of the writing Dr. Corey Probst, our wellness director at the Diet Doc, even has a chapter called Motivation versus Commitment in our book, 50 Days to Your Best Life. And she makes that obvious comparison, motivation versus commitment. Motivation does this, right? I was motivated to create some content because I thought, hey, some of our license owners are asking for it. I know it would help. I know even clients and friends around the world would love to have some questions answered. But again, that was all very external, and it was kind of almost not a pressure, but it was somebody saying, do this. And there's not a lot of intrinsic value to that. So I had to go back to a place and say, what would make me want to do this? And that's why I've named this entire vlog series Tribal 4.6. If I just talk about nutrition and physical health and the health sciences, which obviously I love and it's very important to me, but that's something I've been doing for my entire career. I like it. I'm good at it. I help a lot of people do it very well. But I've been doing it for a long time, and the novelty has worn off enough where if I'm going to do something that sticks, that's new and exciting, there has to be something of intrinsic value. So I decided by this Tribal 4.6 label, I could do things that speak a little bit more to me now, that resonate with what I'm doing, which are more in the social sciences. The last couple master's degrees I've done and am still completing one have all been in that social psychology, anthropology, social science writing field, and that really excites me because obviously physical health is a part of that. That's who we are in our bodies, at our core, our brains, neurologically, everything is there. But at the same time, I can talk about those other tangents. I can talk about social science, and I can talk about behavior, and I can talk about things that relate to business building and this, motivation versus commitment. And so the way that Corey describes it, of course, is motivation, again, is very undulating. You can have a day where you're super motivated, a day you're not. So how are you going to sustain that? She talks about commitment. The juxtaposition of those two phrases is profound. Motivation is kind of is an emotion. I feel that I might be up or down, but commitment means even during those up and down moments, I'm still going to be consistent. I'm going to persevere. I'm going to make it a habit. That can include some external factors. You could create some accountability. You can bring other people into your sphere of influence and say, hey, can you help me with this? You can get mentorship. That's why I'm just a lifelong student. I just love that mentorship. I love the guidance. I love the accountability. I love the input I get from other peers and professors. So even though I'm constantly writing a new book or four, I'm getting help from people. I'm reaching out. That gives me a sense of community. It gives me a strength that I just don't have alone. And so I think that's really important when you try and find something that you can attach intrinsic value to. So let's say, for the sake of just this hypothetical, that you're watching this because you have some great, maybe physique transformation type goal. And you're thinking the same thing, like, I've got good days and bad days. I have motivation that seems to come and go. So how can I hang on to that? Again, there has to be more than that one-time feel-good. You have to be able to say, okay, I want to win in this sport or improve or get that scholarship or win this contest or lose that 100 pound. Those are all tremendous goals, but they are external. So what can you attach internally to that same goal? Why do you want those things? You really have to dig in and ask yourself those questions, not as just a point of self-reflection, just kind of, egoism, trying to discover who you are. I'm talking about getting in and saying, why do I really want this? And then being okay with it and saying that this is part of my new goal. So for me, again, doing this whole kind of a series and creating this content is to maybe sort out some of the things I'm writing. I certainly do that. I like to take things out in small chunks, field test it, so to speak, edit it, synthesize it, put it away, come back to it later, pull it out for something larger like a book. So that's part of that intrinsic value. I consider myself a professional writer. I've been doing it for a long time, and so that's a big part of the value I place on these kind of endeavors. So if it was just to get out a book, if it was just to get out the next video, again, the habit would go away and I'd be done. So I have to keep attaching it back to, why am I really doing this? Why is it important? Is it something that I like to do? And if it's not, then I have to find either something else or find a way to connect those two. So I'll leave you with this quote. Another friend of mine on Facebook and I were chatting back and forth with some quotes, and been reading a lot of a philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and he said, freedom, in my mind, is not what a man can do, it's what he doesn't want to do, and yet he chooses not to do that. In other words, there are things that I just know I don't want to do, like I don't want to be lazy, I don't want to do this, and yet I'm going to have the discipline to follow through and not do that. I'm choosing to avoid that path of least resistance or laziness, that kind of thing. So to me, that really kind of sums up that intrinsic motivation. So hope that helps, guys. We're going to hit some other topics, always going back and forth between the physical sciences, nutrition is a big part of that, obviously, in my world, and then also between the social sciences, relational things, just a lot of fun stuff. So thank you guys for hanging in there, and I'll catch you on the next one.